And we won't be here too long, but just long enough to let ourselves get settled. Hands can be on your legs, hand can be on your torso, at heart, whatever's most comfortable, and your eyes can shut down if that's comfortable and safe in your environment this morning. And start to slow down your breath. You might imagine your breath starting to flow in a bit more circular pattern. If you'd like, you can visualize your breath moving from the soles of your feet all the way up your back body on the inhale. And on the exhale, moving down through your front body all the way back down to your toes. So creating this closed circuit, this circular pattern of breath. And as you start to settle into your breath, noticing what parts of your physical body might need a little extra TLC as we move today. And while we will be focusing on specifically the inner lines of the legs, low back, and hips, if there's anything in the shapes today that you need to adjust to support different parts of you, feel free to experiment. Feel free to adjust and modify in ways that get into all the nooks and crannies that you need to really pay attention to. And take a few more deep cycles of breath. Slowing down what's around you, slowing down into this current shape. And take one more big breath in through your nose. Option to exhale out with a sigh. If your eyes are closed, you can start to open your eyes. And let's transition right away onto our bellies. So if you have a blanket, you might want to roll your blanket so it's a little bit thicker. I like to roll mine so it's kind of circular. You can also use a bolster here, and we'll bring that to the top portion, like the top third of your mat. Come to lie down onto your belly, and you might use the blanket, you might not use the blanket, so totally your choice. But if you're using the blanket, forearms and elbows come in front of it. So I've got the blanket kind of just underneath my ribs for a little bit of support. So this way we're moving into Sphinx, and there's a little bit of support there for the lift. Always the option to ditch the blanket. So you might press down lightly into your forearms as you lift your gaze forward. If lifting the gaze forward feels like it's strenuous on the neck, always the option to drop down. You might notice by dropping your gaze down that you actually feel more stretch all the way down through your back. And then your feet might be hip width distance. They might be a little bit wider. So really take whatever variation the lower part of the body gives you the opportunity to soften through specifically your hips and glutes. And then once you find your shape, breathe in to your back body. If at any point this feels like there's compression or it's feeling rather intense in your low back, you can always come down. You might alternatively explore what happens if you find just a little bit of activation at your belly button. So kind of drawing the belly and navel in. That might take some of that compression out, but really listen to your low back here as we start to breathe into your first shape of Sphinx. So we've got one more minute here. Option to stay as you are. If it feels appropriate, you can walk your palms a little bit wider, press down into your palms, and start to press up towards seal. Begin to move into your final 3 rounds of breath wherever you are. And as you exhale, start to bring your elbows down if the arms were extended. Walk your palms in. And then any way you can gently remove your blanket or bolster, set that off to the side. Bring your forehead down to the ground, and you can stack up your palms if you'd like, and either bring your forehead straight down if that feels good to have a neutral neck. You might also bring your left cheek towards your hands, so there's a little bit of a twist into your neck. Stay here. Option also to slide your right knee up, so it slides up along the ground, and there's about a 90-degree angle in the right knee. So left cheek to the ground, right knee slides up on the floor. And we'll stay here for 1 full minute. Option to come back to that circular breath pattern. You might notice your breath is a little more adventurous today and moves from space to space. And so really letting your breath move in any direction that gives you some release through your muscles, through the structure. And then gently, if you have your right knee bent, slide your right leg back in space. So your right leg connects back down to the ground. Gently bring your forehead back down to the mat or onto your hands. Take 3 cycles of breath with a neutral cervical spine. So your neck is finding a middle space. And then maybe you switch your palms if you want to take that to the other side. If you're lying forehead down, always the option to stay. Or this time, turn your right cheek down towards your hands or the mat. Stay with legs extended or start to slide your left leg up. So again, knee stays on the ground. Slide your left knee up to about hip distance, and it's going to be about a 90-degree angle. And we'll stay here for 1 full minute. And take another deep breath in through your nose. And exhale. And gently start to bring your forehead back to center. Slowly slide your left leg back in space if you have it bent. And again, hips at neutral, head at neutral, and 3 cycles of breath. And slide your hands underneath your shoulders. Gently draw your elbows in towards your ribs, tuck your toes underneath, and you might lightly engage the core here just to take any load off of the low back that you might be feeling. And then press yourself up toward a tabletop position. So here's the option where we're going to move into sleeping swan, lying on our bellies, or swan on the back. So I'm going to guide the swan on the back first. You can come to lie down onto your back, and here's where you probably want to have your blocks nearby. Come to lie down onto your back, knees are bent. And we'll start with the right ankle to left knee. So we do this quite often in vinyasa. I find it's really nice on the hips and the glutes. You might stay here and kind of hang out. So notice if the foot starts to flex, let your foot get soft here. Let your left knee drape out. So option to stay right here. We will be here for a full 3 minutes. You might alternatively bring your right foot up onto one block, or maybe you bring your right foot up onto 2 blocks. If it feels okay to hug the knee in, that right knee in, you can always hug it in. And just remember though, if that causes a lot of activation, you might want to choose an alternative version with your foot on blocks. If you're taking belly down variation from your tabletop, you can slide your right knee behind your right wrist, left knee behind your left wrist, scoot your foot to the right, and then slowly lower down onto forearms, onto blocks. And once you settle in, we'll stay here for, at this point, about 2.5 more minutes. And breathing into sensation spaces and moving through a body scan, specifically in some of these hip openers. Tendency can be for our body to kind of activate to support us. And so notice if that unconsciously happens, and then without conversation or judgment, simply, okay, I activated my muscles, now I'm going to soften again. And that's kind of the meditation in the shapes, right? We move into something unconsciously. We become aware of habits, movements. And then with that awareness, we can make the decision to shift, to adjust, to change. Deep breath in and out. Start to move through 3 final cycles. If you're belly down, start to gently walk yourself back up toward a tabletop. If you're lying on your back, very gently remove your right foot if it's on blocks back to the earth. Take your left foot to the ground. And with your knees about hip width distance apart, you can stay here at neutral. Knees might knock in for constructive rest, or if movement feels better, maybe you start to take some windshield wipers from side to side. Option, if you're in tabletop, to stay at tabletop with a little rock of your hips, or you might take your knees wide, toes together, and drop down towards a child's pose. And we'll stay here in our counter, either in stillness, in any sort of rocking you're taking, for 1 minute. Take one more cycle of breath in. And exhale out. Let's transition to the opposite side. So if you're lying down on your back, this time you'll start to hook your right ankle towards your left knee. You might choose to take the same option here, first by finding kind of a softness in your right foot, your right hip. Left foot stays exactly as it is, let gravity kind of work its magic. Maybe you bring your left foot onto a block or two, maybe you hug it in. If you're hugging in, again, remember if that activates the arms a lot, to find a space where you can soften. Alternatively, if you're taking a belly down version, you can slide your right knee behind your right wrist. Go ahead, scooch it off to the left a little bit with the right foot and come to walk yourself back, either towards your swan upright or any variation of sleeping swan. And we'll stay here for 3 full minutes. And so the gallbladder and meridian lines offer us a lot of space in the hips, the low back, the inner lines of the legs. And they also work a lot if there's any headaches that might be happening. Frustration and anger are also associated with these lines. And so there's not only the physical component of these meridian lines, there's also the mental and emotional component. And so being able to create space in these lines for energy to flow freely can really start to open up the emotional, mental part of our practice, in addition to some space in the hips and back. We have about 1 more minute here if you'd like to make any adjustments. Gently moving into your 3 final cycles here. And then same options. So if you are lying on your back, gently release your right ankle and come to either feet at hip width distance, constructive rest, or you might find your windshield wiper again by rocking your feet side to side. If you're belly down, you can gently make your way back towards a tabletop. You might stay here in stillness or take a little side to side rock with your hips, or again, option to take knees wide, toes together and a child's pose. And we'll stay in our counter, kind of this pause in between, again, for 1 full minute. Take 1 more cycle of breath in this shape. Exhale it out. If you're lying down, gently start to roll to one side. If you're in child's pose, gently start to press yourself up, and then we'll all meet in a seat. And so you might want to adjust your blanket if it was rolled up tiny, maybe a little bit more of the rectangular shape to bring your sits bones onto. Option to have your blocks nearby. And we'll take a wide leg straddle here. And when you find yourself there, same as we did with the other shapes, let your legs get soft. So it's a nice passive fold. So notice if the quadriceps want to engage, your feet want to flex. And so give yourself a moment just to soften out through your legs. Bring your palms to the floor, and we'll start with length in the spine, but then we'll go ahead and get nice and rounded. So as you start to fold, right, normally we think of like extending through the torso. Forget it. Go ahead, fold forward. Let yourself get nice and round as your forehead drops down. You might really feel this in the back of your neck. Option to stay here in space. Again, working with gravity can be really nice to bring a block or two underneath your forehead here, if that gives you some more support to get into your legs. Option as well to take a bend into your knees. Blocks underneath your knees can feel good. And if knees extended long, it just really does not feel like it's working today, bend your knees. Bend your knees nice and deep, soles of the feet to the floor, and you can take your fold from a nice bent knee variation. So really lots of options. And once you find your shape, got about 2.5 more minutes here. Feel free to make any adjustments that you might need. That might mean deepening the shape. It might mean backing out of your shape. It might mean staying just as you are. Let's take 3 more breaths here. If your palms are flipped up, flip your palms back down. Take a moment to connect down, and then you can start to walk yourself up. Take it nice and slow, eventually lifting up through the crown of your head. Set your props off to the side. Bend into both of your knees. You can bring your feet to about hip width distance. An option to hold on to your shins and stay upright, or you might kind of give yourself a little hug and turn inward one more time for our counter here. One more deep breath in and out. If you're folding forward, gently start to lift yourself up. Bring your hands behind you. You can stay on your blanket or slide off of your blanket if you want. A couple windshield wipers from an upright position. Gaze can turn in the opposite direction if that feels good. And the next time your knees come through center, go ahead, stay at center, and either crisscross or sweep your feet to the side. We'll transition onto hands and knees. All right. So starting to build a little bit more fluidity into the shapes. Press down into your knuckles, press down through the tops of your feet. As you inhale, drop your belly, arch your back, move towards cow. And then as you exhale, start to round. So using a couple cows and cats here as a transition from stillness into more of a connected breath and movement space. And the next time you move through center, stay there at neutral. Walk your palms a little bit forward, tuck your toes underneath, press down as you start to unravel towards your first active down dog here. You might decide to stay in a more still position. You might kind of take a bend and a pedal. And just noticing your connection with the shape when there's an active effort put forth, opposed to letting yourself kind of soften down. And the softening might be the harder of the two, right? Like maybe your relationship with activation is quite strong. And then send your gaze to the front of your mat. Start to walk yourself all the way forward, Uttanasana, forward fold. Take a moment to set up with your feet about hip width distance, little bend to your knees, head down, opposite elbows can connect. Any variation of your arms, release your hands back down to the floor, press into your feet, slide up to your first half lift. Nice. And then bend into your knees, fold back down. One more time like this. Inhale to your half lift. Exhale as you fold. And then press into your feet, bend to your knees, sweep your arms forward and up. Release your hands down to your heart, all the way down to your sides, palms face forward, Tadasana, mountain pose. We'll move through 2 rounds of Sun A to get us warmed up. Inhale, take your arms up. Exhale, bend to the knees, forward fold. Inhale to your half lift. Exhale, palms to the floor. Start with the right foot back, followed by the left, high plank. Shift forward, drop your knees, engage through your core, elbows back, heart forward, lower to belly. Untuck your toes, elbows in, press your palms down and back, lift up to baby cobra or cobra, and either drop your forehead down or tuck your toes from your back bend, engage your core, and lift yourself up and back, downward facing dog. 3 cycles of breath once you arrive. And staying in movement, staying in stillness. And so just because we're starting to pick up the pace, can you still keep that really inquisitive kind of connection with your breath and body that we had in the slowness? Gaze to the front of your mat, walk forward or step your right foot forward, followed by your left, Uttanasana. Inhale to your half lift. Exhale, refold. Press to your feet, reach to the sky. Exhale, hands to your heart, release Tadasana. Round 2, inhale, arms up. Nice. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Palms to the ground on your exhale, left foot leads, followed by the right, high plank. Inhale, shift forward, drop your knees, elbows back, heart lowers. Inhale, unravel to a back bend of your choice. Exhale, forehead to the ground or tuck your toes, go straight up and back, downward facing dog. Once you arrive, 3 full breaths. Gaze forward, walk or step your left foot forward, followed by your right, Uttanasana. As you inhale, find your half lift, strengthen through your back body. Exhale, refold. Last one, press to the floor, reach to the sky. Exhale, hands to your heart, release down, Tadasana. Inhale, take your arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Palms to the ground, right foot steps back, drop your knee, untuck your toes, bring a block under your left hand, right hand if you'd like, and then sweep your left hand forward. We're going to drop the hips down a little bit as we do that, up and back. So you can drop the hips down. There's still an activation by pressing into your left foot, drawing that left hip back a little bit, and really think of extending your arm to the back so there's some space in your arms and shoulders for the twist. Take another inhale. And exhale. As you inhale, take your left arm up, around and down, frame your front foot, tuck your right toes, lift your right knee, pivot. You might bring your block with you to a wide leg forward fold. Toes forward, heels back, option to have your block down onto the floor, and then send your tail back, send your crown forward. So quite different from our passive forward fold. Activate through your quadriceps, draw your kneecaps up, and then start to fold forward. You might utilize a block underneath your head. You might utilize blocks underneath your hands, and we'll stay here for 3 cycles of breath. Maintain the activation for 1 more inhale. And exhale. Press down into your palms, walk your hands under your shoulders. Might want to bring your block with you. Pivot to the front of your mat, low runner's lunge. Set your block on the inside line of your left foot. Ground down through your right heel. And I'm going to set my block to the highest height just to prep it while I'm down here. Press down, unravel, up and back, warrior 2. Yes, drop into the hips. Open up through the front knee. Zip up through the navel. So everything is starting to move into this active shape. Take a deep breath in. Deep breath out. 1 more inhale. Exhale. As you inhale, press into your feet, straighten your legs, straighten both arms up above you. Keep your legs as they are. Exhale, re-extend your arms wide. And then start to send your hips to the back, to the right, as you tilt forward. And then once you find that extension, take your left hand onto your thigh, your shin, or down to your block. Right arm up to the sky for Trikonasana. Really think of extending forward. So you want to find some space in the side ribs, some space in the inside line of that left leg. Yes, nice. Gaze can always stay down, or you might turn your gaze up toward the ceiling. If you're doing that, think of looking with your left eye. Take another inhale. Exhale. Gaze down to the ground. Rebend into your left knee. And as you do so, inhale up to warrior 2, all the way up and back to your reverse warrior. Stay here. Yes. Full breath in. As you exhale, windmill your hands forward. Frame your front foot. Pivot to the toes of your back foot. Step back to plank pose. Vinyasa of your choice. So you can lower down. You might skip it all together and we'll all meet in downward facing dog. Take a deep breath in. Deep breath out. 1 more here. Gaze to the front of your mat. Make your way forward any way you'd like, Uttanasana. Inhale to your half lift. Exhale, release. Press down, rise tall. Palms can be together. Palms can be arm, kind of shoulder width distance. This time as you exhale, right away, we'll refold. Inhale to your half lift. Palms to the ground, big step back with your left foot this time. Yes, drop the knee, untuck your toes. Block comes underneath your left hand if you're using it. Press down into your feet. Hips are gonna stay a little bit lower. Right arm reaches forward, up, around, and back. So there's really some space here. Keep pressing into your right foot. Draw your right hip back. Expand through your back fingers. One more inhale. Maintain on your exhale. Inhale your back hand up, forward and down. So lots of space in the shoulders. Tuck your back toes, lift your back knee. Again, pivot to your wide leg forward fold. You can bring your block with you. Option to set the block up underneath you. Engage through your quadriceps, so find the strength of the legs now. And then however you want to fold, take your fold. So you might take the same fold, you might play around with this one, you might grab your ankles, toes, adjust your block. 3 breaths wherever you are. Walk your hands underneath you once more. Start to pivot to the front of your mat, bring your block with you, low runner's lunge. And then set your block up on the inside line of your right foot. Ground your back heel down to about 45. Press down, rise up, warrior 2. Yes. Drop down into the strength now of your hips and your legs. Expand out through the fingertips. Stay here for another 2 cycles of breath. As you inhale, press to your front foot, straighten your front leg, both arms reach up and overhead. And then legs stay as they are, re-extend your arms long. Send your left hip back, kind of tilt yourself forward. So there's some length there. And then right hand to your thigh, to your shin, or to your block. Take your left arm up and overhead. Keep reaching the hips back as you reach your crown forward, right? So there's some length there. Option to start to send your gaze up, really looking through your right eye to find your hand or the ceiling. Another deep breath in. Exhale, release your gaze down to the ground. Rebend your front right knee, press into your foot, big sweep of your arms as you slowly reach up and back. Reverse warrior 1, breath in. And out, yes. And then really big sweep forward as you windmill both of your hands down. Pivot to your back toes, set your block to the side. Option to take 1 more vinyasa here by stepping back and lowering. Again, option to skip it, and we'll all meet in downward facing dog. And once you're arriving down dog, deep breath in. And down. Let's take 1 more here together. Release down to hands and knees. Sweep or crisscross your feet. Come back to a seat. Come up onto your blanket. We'll take 1 more upright seat. This time, soles of your feet together, knees drop out wide. So kind of a combo of the activation of the feet by feet pressing in and the softness of letting your knees drop down. Hands can find your big toes, your ankles, your feet, the floor, anywhere you want as you lift your torso up. And then we're going to work to maintain the length this time. So hips back, crown forward. Once you find your edge, instead of rounding into the back, option to this time, bring your gaze down. So maintaining the length of your front body, some space in the inner lines, and a little bit of softness to your neck. One more cycle of breath in and out. Walk yourself back up to center. Draw your knees in, and options. So if you want to come to lie down and take a supine twist, lying on your back, yogini's choice, find the floor, take any twist you want. I'm going to guide one more upright twist, so feel free to take whichever variation you prefer. If you're staying upright, we'll start with a right foot onto the floor, knee bent, left leg will extend long. And you might bring your left foot a little bit more towards center. Maybe you take your right knee to the outside line of your left leg. Left hand gives you the squeeze, right hand behind you to the floor, or you might set up your right hand on a block. Lift up through your crown. And as you exhale, start to twist yourself to the right. Nice. Big breath in. And out. And so 2 more here to play with that effort and ease. As you inhale, can you find a little bit of lift? And as you exhale, can you soften into your twist? One more here, inhale. Exhale. Wherever you are, unravel, come back to center. Release your feet, and today we'll simply switch sides. So extend the right leg long, either straight forward or a little bit more towards center. Left foot on the inside line or to the outside line. Yes. Right arm takes the squeeze, left hand reaches behind you before you go anywhere. Look up, lift up, feel everything kind of pulling to midline. And then from that strength, we start to find the rotation, right? So gently turning around ourselves, looking around. And then once you find that, inhale to lift. Exhale to maintain or deepen. Inhale. Exhale. And 2 more, working that play of opposites as you find the effort to lift. And the softening as you exhale. And gently start to unravel, come back to neutral. Release both of your feet. You can slide off your blanket, make your way all the way down onto your back. Find your socks, find your blankets, find anything you need for Shavasana. If there's any other movement that you want to take, as always, go for it. Take whatever you need so that you feel complete in your practice. And once you find Shavasana, lying down, you might move a few more times through that inquiry of a body scan, seeing if it feels like anything has a little more space. Using your breath for 3 more deep cycles. And then when you're ready to let go of the concentrated breath, let your natural pattern come back into play and soften the effort of thinking, of directing your breath, and let yourself rest and integrate your practice into your physical, mental, and emotional bodies. Once more, bring a deepening quality into your breath. And when your physical body feels ready to reawaken, start to find movements to support that. In that reawakening, eventually you might decide to transition once more to an upright seat. And closing your practice with palms down onto your legs or together at your heart center. And taking a moment here to honor the stillness, honor the softness that really provides a lot. And allowing ourselves to slow down long enough to notice where we need to pay attention. And then using that awareness to make decisions to move forward. And so thank you for slowing down, for your inquiry, curiosity, and as always, your continued dedication to your practice. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.